What's up, guys? I hope you're all good. Hope you're all doing well. And before I get into the video, if you like my content here, hit that subscribe button, and hit the bell notification as well, so you get notified every time I upload. But if you like my content, hit the subscribe button and comment in the comment section below your thoughts on season 2, episode 4, your thoughts on Power Book 2 in general as well, your ideas, your predictions, your theories on any particular your theories on anything really regarding Power Book 2 and any predictions that you guys may have or anything like that. Just leave your musings and opinions in the comment section below. The more people that I can interact with in the comments, the better. So yeah, leave your comments in the comments below on what you thought about the episode and all of that stuff, and hit the like button if you end up liking this video as well. But yeah, anyway, let's get into it. So Monet's been slipping this season. Like her eyes not being on the ball. She's not as mentally sharp. She's not as focused. And little does she know that it was Diana that took the money from the stash. And ever since Dante has come back into Monet's life, she's been making mistake after mistake after mistake. At first, she thought Rico was the one that stepped on the product when it wasn't him. It was actually Kane. And she believed Tariq's lie when Tariq told her that he had nothing to do with Jabari's death. And the contractor as well, that she killed the contractor, jumping to conclusions, thinking that it was him that took the money from the stash when it wasn't, when it was actually Diana. So Monet's not been thinking straight this season. She's been just jumping to conclusions rather than taking a second to actually think clearly. Like season 1 Monet wouldn't have made these mistakes that she's making. Because I remember there were points in season 1, for example, where one thing that was really clever that Monet would do is that she would observe and analyze people's body language and people's reactions to certain questions that she would ask. For example, when Diana called her dad and asked her dad if she could go to school, and Monet had previously shut it down. So Diana, behind Monet's back, asked her dad if she could go to school. And when Monet was at the conjugal visit with Lorenzo now, Lorenzo brings up the idea that Diana should be going to school. And then in a subsequent scene now, later on in that same episode, Monet realized that, okay, Diana had a word with Lorenzo, because why would Lorenzo bring it up? I mean, so she would observe people's reactions, people's body language, and the things they would say. And then from that, she would deduce that, okay, this person's done this person said that, this person's done this. Another example, Kane, when he killed Ramirez, Kane was using past tense with the way he was talking. He said Ramirez wasn't family. And then Monet quickly realized, okay, Ramirez was killed by Kane. Kane was the one that killed Ramirez. So Monet was just a lot mentally sharper, a lot smarter. She'll be able to realize when one of her family members have done something wrong, or just overall, she was just a lot more focused in the game, and she was making far fewer mistakes. But now, this season, for example, like she didn't even know that it was Kane that stepped on the product. If this was season 1 Monet, she would have realized, okay, who had the most to gain from stepping on the product? Who had the most to gain from messing it up? Kane all of a sudden has a new connect, and then in that same space of time, our product gets stepped on. She would have put 2 and 2 together and realized Kane was the one that stepped on the product, so that he could step in now with his new connect and get it back into the family. But she wasn't thinking this. She was just thinking that, oh, it was Rico. Rico must have done that. And then she just walked off. And even Diana and Drew were a bit surprised. And I think it's Drew and Diana and are losing respect for Monet's intelligence. You even heard Drew say something like, oh, Monet's exit strategy is terrible. And Diana as well, her taking the money from the stash, she wouldn't have done that in season 1. Season 1, Diana would have thought, it's too risky. Monet's going to find out. But the fact that Diana did that just shows that she's losing respect for Monet's intelligence. And in fact, it was her that realized that it was Kane that stepped on the product. And the fact that she realized that and Monet couldn't, yeah, like, it just shows that she loses more respect for Monet's intelligence, and I can see her continuing to be rebellious as a result, because she's gonna think, I got away with this, I can get away with more stuff and get away with more. So I see that's one of the reasons why I see Diana being more rebellious in future episodes. But yeah, just to summarize, really, Monet is, she's not focused, her eyes not on the ball, and she's just distracted, massively distracted with Dante, and Dante coming back into her life. And since then, she'd just been making mistake after mistake, not realizing when one of her kids is up to something, such as when Diana took the money from the stash. She just jumped to conclusions without actually taking a step back to actually think about who it could be. And even with Tariq as well, lying about killing Jabari, she didn't really, she couldn't tell that Tariq was lying. She just assumed that Tariq was telling the truth. Monet in season 1, she would have looked at Tariq like he's doing something shady. She would have at least been suspicious of Tariq, especially due to the way Tariq answered his body language. She would have at least been suspicious of Tariq, but she wasn't. But we'll see how Monet progresses throughout the season. Will she come in? Will she come in clutch at the end of the season and start being a lot more focused, start making better decisions, or will she continue to make more and more mistakes? But we'll see. But Effie is teaching Diana a lot more about the game. First, she was the one that kind of gave her a hint as to who it could be that stepped on the product, because she asked her the question, who had the most to gain from doing it. And then that's when Diana put 2 and 2 together, realized that it was Kane. So Effie helped Diana. She gave her the hint as to who it was. That stepped on the product. And now in episode 4, we see Diana and Effie in the shop, in that clothing store, about to run a scam as well to collect more money to help out Zeke with his whole situation, having to raise 1 million in 3 days. So Dan and Effie doing some kind of scam in that store, and you just see Effie and Diana. Effie just teaching her a lot more about the game, and this is building up to a kind of like a mentor-mentee relationship. Effie and Diana. Effie obviously being the mentor, Diana being the mentee, and that's like a common theme that's being expressed throughout Power. We saw it in the original Power with Ghost and Dre, Ghost being the mentor there, Kanan and Tariq, Kanan being the mentor there. And that's really got me thinking, what usually happens in Power with these mentor-mentee relationships? What usually happens in that? And what usually happens is the mentee ends up betraying the mentor for whatever reason, but the mentee for his or her own personal gain. The mentee ends up betraying the mentor. We saw Dre end up betraying Ghost, and we saw Tariq end up betraying Kanan. So I think a similar situation may arise from this, especially if they spend a lot more time together and Effie continues to teach her more about the game. I can see Diana eventually betraying Effie somehow, some way. It will pretty much just continue that whole theme of mentor-mentee relationship and how those storylines usually end. And the way those storylines usually end is the mentee somehow betrays the mentor. So I can see something similar happening with Effie and Diana there. But that relationship's becoming quite interesting. We'll see whether my prediction ends up being true or false. The subject topic of the canonical studies class, as most of you already know, the subject topic always relates somehow to the episode. It always ends up being the theme of the episode. Lauren's saying that there's certain boundaries you don't cross. And then Tariq asked her, oh, what if it was to protect yourself? And she said, oh, I would have to be in that situation to really know what I would do. And this was kind of like an omen for things to come. It was foreshadowing in a way, because her words manifested into reality, because that's exactly what happened. She was put in a situation where the Kamal Tate, Rashad Tate's brother, was asking her questions about the drugs in her room. And at first, she didn't say anything. She didn't want to snitch on her friends. She didn't want to cross that boundary, to put it in her words. She didn't want to cross that boundary. But then, as soon as Professor Milgram Professor Milgram pretty much just told her that, okay, if you don't wear this watch, I mean, the police are going to look deeper into you. This may mess up your career. This may mess up your future. You know what I mean? Like making it about her career, making it about her future, etc. And knowing that Lauren cares about that. Knowing that Lauren cares about her future, knowing Lauren cares about her career. And Milgram was saying that, oh, if you don't wear the watch, it could affect your future, but wear it, all this will go away. You have no criminal record or anything like that. And Lauren decided to wear the watch to protect herself. So she was willing to cross that boundary then. She was willing to cross that boundary in order to pretty much save herself, protect herself. And it's not really surprising because she wasn't confident. When she'd said that, oh, she would have to be in a situation to see how she would react, you could tell the way she said it, she wasn't confident on the fact that she wouldn't cross the boundary. So Lauren doing that, especially being the type of person she is as well, she's not a part of that kind of like street lifestyle. So it's not surprising at all, really. But one interesting thing that Lauren said is that she said words to the effect of, you can't continue crossing boundaries and you can't continue justify everything you do and continue to call yourself a good person. And those words, it is very interesting that she said those words, because no power dialogue is said in vain. And I'm thinking Lauren is going to cross those boundaries, and she kind of already has, because she decided to wear the watch. Or so in her words, she's in a way already crossed that boundary, and there may be further boundaries that she may continue to cross. And as a result, is she gonna consider herself a bad person? Is she gonna consider herself a bad person? And if she does consider herself a bad person, what will that guilt, that remorse do to her? Because it's things like this where a character, for example, goes against their own principles, or such as what Lauren's doing right now. Her crossing these boundaries, this may lead to her viewing herself as a bad person, or considering herself as a bad person. And if she does, that's going to lead to guilt, that's going to lead to remorse, that's going to lead to all these feelings. And as a result of that, the perception that she may have of herself, that might lead to her character just changing. That may lead to a character evolution. And it could lead to her going down on a downward spiral. I don't know. But if she views herself and has that perception of herself as a bad person, that's definitely going to lead to her feeling guilty and remorseful, I think. And then that might lead to her character changing in some kind of way. And yeah, I can see Laura's character changing and evolving throughout the season. Now we move on to Kane and Brayden now. Kane and Brayden, the trap house scene. This was my favorite scene of the episode. Yeah, I mean, Kane and Brayden were on demon time. Kane and Brayden were on smoke. And yeah, this was a brilliant scene. I love action scenes. Like, this was a brilliant scene. And Kane calling Brayden an adrenaline junkie was so funny. That was funny. And it's true as well, because that's what he is. He is an adrenaline junkie. Like, my man was laughing, smiling during the like, my man was like so excited at the end of that scene, seeing him patting Kane's chest. And yeah, he was just so excited. He was just so excited. And like, you can tell the guy just loves the thrill of the game. He loves the thrill of it. And right now it's all fun and games to him. Like, Braden's out here thinking this is GTA, but in real life. And he's thinking he's out here doing missions and stuff. Like, that's what he's thinking. And it's all fun and games to him, it's all that. But will it still be fun and games to him when he loses someone in his family? Because that's another, like, power is like notorious for doing that. Whenever someone's deep in the game, there's always at least one family member that they lose. Ghost lost his daughter, Raina. Tasha, obviously, Ghost and Tasha's daughter, so also lost Raina. Tommy, he lost his dad. And Kanan lost Jukebox. He ended up killing Jukebox. That was, well, self-inflicted, but nonetheless, he killed Jukebox, and we know how close him and Jukebox were, especially after watching Maze and Kanan. So everyone that's deep in the game ends up losing at least one person that they love. So who's that going to be for Brayden? Is it going to be his sister, his brother, his dad? We'll see. And how is he going to feel about the game after someone in his family does die? Is he still going to have the same love with it or not? Yeah, that's just the question that I'm thinking. That's just the question that I'm posing. But Brayden, yeah, as of right now at least, the guy, he just loves the adrenaline rush that comes with being in a game, and he just really excited with it. That's why he loves rolling and chilling with Kane. Braden's kind of like theme, his mantra, whatever you want to call it, for the season is loyalty. And I think in the end, like, Braden's always going to be loyal to Tariq. That's who his loyalty is first to. So he's going to be loyal to Tariq. But one thing he doesn't know is that Kane is manipulating him. Kane is appealing to his pride, his ego, especially in episode 3. Especially in episode 3, where he said he was insinuating that Braden was Tariq's like worker, his employee, and yeah, he was implying that King was implying that Braden was the worker and Tariq was the boss, and he knows that it's actually a 50-50 thing, but he was just implying that Braden, that Braden was the worker and that Tariq was the boss, to kind of like appeal to his ego, appeal to his pride, and he knows that that's gonna make him feel a certain type of way. That's gonna make him, he's not gonna be happy about hearing those words, and as a result, he was able to use that to get Braden to kind of like try and prove himself and get Braden to do what he wants. Pretty much, they wanted to get Braden in his back pocket, and it just shows how Kane is wising up, Kane is smarting up, but Braden he's not cognizant of the fact that he's being manipulated. As of right now, he's not, at least. But will he find out? Will Tariq tell him? Will Tariq know that that's what's going on? We'll see. But in the end, though, Braden is always going to be loyal to Tariq first. I don't see Braden betraying Tariq or anything like that. I think Braden's definitely going to be loyal to Tariq. And I spoke about with Diana and Effie, when I was speaking about Diana and Effie, I spoke about the whole mentor/mentee relationship that Power likes to display, Power likes to express, and we see it kind of arising with Diana and Effie, and you see it even more so with Kane and Braden. Kane being the mentor, and Braden being the mentee. And again, I can see a bond forming there. I can see Kane, you can tell he kind of likes Braden a little bit, and you can see, and as the episodes go by, he's going to develop a stronger bond with Braden. I think he's going to kind of see him like a little brother, a little bit. He's kind of see him like not exactly like this, but a bit like a little brother. And I believe that they're already foreshadowing this, because Kane did say to Braden that he called him a G, and he said he pretty much like he was like, you're a G, you held it down at the jewelry store, and the way you hit the guy on the head, like you're really out here proving you're a G and everything. So Kane was a little bit, kind of proud of Braden. So what's developing there is like a bond. I think what's developing there is a bond. Kane is gonna develop more and more a bond with Braden. He's gonna start to like him more, and I think he's gonna see him as a kind of like a little brother. And I can see Braden turning on Kane. I can definitely see Braden turning on Kane, especially since they've got that kind of like I spoke about that with how Diana and Effie also have this as well, a mentor-mentee relationship. You see it with Braden and Kane, you see it with Diana and Effie, but more so with Braden and Kane. And Kane being the mentor, Braden being the mentee. And I can see that kind of like theme recurring and repeating, really, where the mentee ends up backstabbing or something like that, or killing, but just doing something, just going against the mentor. The mentee ends up going against the mentor, and I can see Braden doing that. I can see Braden doing that to Kane, and I'll be delving deeper into that in one of my future videos, though. But yeah, I can see Braden turning against Kane, especially when he finds out that Kane is framing Tariq with that whole badge. Drew is transforming. He's definitely going through a character evolution, Drew, because he's gone from, especially in the early parts of season 1, he was more of a mild-mannered individual, and now he's gone from that to like a very aggressive, quick-tempered guy. Like the way he reacted and beat up that reporter. Early season 1, Drew wouldn't have done something like that. Yeah, he would have just told the guy to get out, maybe even dragged him out, but he wouldn't have punched him in the face and started kicking him. Definitely not. And one way to prove that as well is because when Drew met up with Lil Guap, and Lil Guap was being very disrespectful, very, very disrespectful to Drew and Drew's mum, Monet. And Lil Guap would be more disrespectful than the reporter, but he didn't put hands on Lil Guap. He didn't put hands on Lil Guap. So and that was the early stages of season 1. So it shows how Drew is kind of changed and evolved, which is kind of, you kind of expect that because he did get shot. So when a character goes through something so deep, when a character goes through something that's quite deep, such as getting shot, often you see the character evolve. Often you see a character evolve, especially in Power. They tend to do things like this a lot. So yeah, Drew's transforming, and he's becoming more and more aggressive, more and more vicious. And as the episodes go by, we're going to see more of Drew's viciousness. I expect Drew to become even more and more vicious as the episodes go by. But now we move on to Zeke. Zeke, Mr. I gotta tell him what I know. Mr. She don't know nothing. Mr. This is my life, my career. whatever you want to call him. But Zeke, yeah, he was just annoyed at the feds. And this guy, he's always confused. Even when he was eating cereal, when he's sitting that next to Drew, the faces he pulls and everything, the way he looks, the guy's always confused and always, yeah, he just doesn't know what he's doing. He's just a dumb guy. The report in the scene where the journalist was interrogating him, again, he was just, at first he was saying, I don't know Detective Ramirez. Then he's like, I do know him. Like, he just stay messing up, doesn't he? But yeah, Drew, too funny, and he just adds that comedy element to the show. The funniest character in the whole Power universe. I think I gotta tell him what I know. I think I gotta tell him what I know. She don't know nothing. Oh, Zeke. But yeah, he's hilarious. And Monet, why is Monet always shouting? Like, she needs to be a bit more appreciative of the fact that all her kids managed to risk their lives. Well, Kane risked his life, really, mainly Kane. Kane risked his life, for example, by doing that whole scene with the trap house with Braden, where he could have got killed. He risked his life raising money. Drew thought of a brilliant idea. Diana, like, she was doing her thing as well, doing the whole scamming scheme with Effie. Like, they all risked a lot, like raising the money for Zeke, like to help out Zeke. But she's not even appreciative. There's no thank you. There's no credit. Nothing. All she's doing is shouting at people. Like, no wonder Drew and Diana have had enough of her. Especially Drew. Drew just walked out, and I rate the fact that Drew stuck up for himself as well. Like, I rate that Drew's doing that. But yeah, Monet just needs to calm the hell down. Like, just calm down. Seriously. Well, yeah. On a side note as well, Tariq, the way he blackmailed the guy that he was sitting down and having that dinner with, I forgot the guy's name, but the guy that's in charge of the whole trust fund, him, like when he was having the dinner with him and he blackmailed him, like, that was such a Ghost move. That's something Ghost would do with many business people that would have these business meetings with. Like, Tariq really is a chip off the old block, really. Like, the fact that he did something like that. Like, Tariq is definitely a chip off the old block. And speaking of Tariq, like, he's trying to get custody of his sister as well. Yaz, he's trying to get his custody of her, and he's got footage of the liquor store of his grandma pretty much shaking up and pushing his sister to the floor. And he's got footage of her, I think, buying alcohol there as well. So yeah, he managed to bribe the cashier there. And that scene, it kind of reminded me, if some of you viewers, if you've seen Top Boy, I know some of you may have seen Top Boy, some of you haven't, but for the viewers that have seen Top Boy, have seen all of Top Boy, it kind of reminded me of that. There was a scene in Top Boy, there's a part in Top Boy where Deshane, he manages to bribe the CCTV guy, and he gets footage of what Jamie sees, his drug rival, really. That's Jamie. So he basically gets CCTV footage of the estate of where his drug rival lives, and he's able to see whatever he sees. And he used that basically to gain leverage and power over his competition over Jamie. So yeah, like the way Deshane got CCTV footage of the estate, it kind of reminded me. Now, this scene here with Tariq kind of reminded me of that scene with Top Boy, what Deshane did. So, yeah. And Davis McLean saying, "What have you gotten me into?" Like that reminds me of Courtney Kemp. She said in one of her lives, Courtney Kemp says that about how every character's got their own lingo. Like you'd be able to, if you heard a sentence from a certain character, you'd know who it is even without hearing it from the character's mouth. And when she said that, it just reminded me of what Davis McLean said when he was saying to Tariq, when he was repeating himself to Tariq, saying, "What have you gotten me into? What have you gotten me into?" That's something that he's been saying from season one. He always says that. What have you gotten me into? As of right now, as well, Tariq doesn't really suspect anything with Lauren and the whole watch being a while. But I think second half of the season, even if Tariq doesn't suspect this whole that Lauren's wearing the wire in the second half of the season, and that watch is a while, even because I don't think Lauren's gonna wear it around Tariq much, so that's one of the reasons why Tariq might not suspect it. But either way, with Tariq, he's gonna come in clutch the second half of the season. He's gonna make a lot of chess moves the second half of the season. That's what he does. Same thing with last season. The first half of the season he was slipping a little bit, not massively, but a little bit. Second half of the season he came in clutch and he started making a lot of chess moves and pretty much won the war in the end. That's what Ghost would do as well. He would lose some of the battles but win the war at the end. Same thing with Tariq. So I see that happening. Tariq's gonna make a lot of smart moves, and in the end he's gonna win. In the end he's gonna come in clutch by the end of the season. Possibly, and I'm not. Yeah, possibly. But let's move on to the big plot twist. Massive plot twist. That's something that I definitely didn't see this coming. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't see this coming. Zeke being Mecca and Monet's son. Whoa, it's crazy. Yeah, like I don't even know where to begin with that one. That's just crazy. But it kind of explains that there were, when you actually looking back now, and hindsight is 2020, because when you look back at now, there were certain signs there, like the way Monet would treat Zeke, and and she would always be really protective of him, and part of that was due to the fact that Zeke is part of a exit strategy, but it was also down to, well, now we know it was also down to Zeke is also her son. So yeah, like, yeah, she was very protective of him, and yeah, now we know the full main reason why. But yeah, and yeah, it's just that's just mad. That's just mad. But yeah, Zeke being Mecca and Monet's son. But the timelines are a bit really weird. I know some people have spoken about that as well. We don't really know how old Zeke, Kane, and Drew and Diana are. But Courtney Kemp did say that that's going to be the ages of everyone and all of that is going to be revealed in future episodes. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But that's really it for this episode. That's really it for this episode review. Hope you've enjoyed it. Give your comments. Give your thoughts in the comment section below. Give your opinions on the episode. Give your opinions on everything I've said. Things you agree on, things you disagree on as well. I'm open for discourse, debate, discussion, all of that in the comments as well.